The alien marketplace was loud, filled with strange lights and even stranger smells. People from many worlds moved quickly, shouting prices, selling food, weapons, clothes, and sometimes living beings. Cole, a human man with tired eyes and a quiet step, walked through the crowd like a shadow. He wasn't there to buy anything special, just supplies for his trip back to his small ship. But something pulled at him, something strange. He heard crying, not loud, not angry, just soft and broken, like someone who had no voice left to scream. He followed the sound and turned into a dark corner of the market. There, under a flickering red light, stood a metal cage. Inside it were two creatures, one already sewed and gone, and one girl, small, thin, and curled up in a ball. Her skin was pale blue with silver lines across her cheeks. She was wearing nothing but an old sheet, barely covering her. Chains wrapped around her ankles and wrists. And her eyes looked like they'd seen too much pain. A trader with 6 arms leaned over to Cole and smiled with sharp teeth. Interested in the hybrid. Useless for labor, but excellent for other things, he hissed. Cole didn't speak, just looked at her. She looked up at him, shaking. Then, to his shock, she crawled to the edge of the cage and whispered through the bars, "Don't turn me in to the trader. Please, I'll give you my body. Just don't let him take me back." Her voice was weak, but clear. It wasn't the words that hit Cole's heart, it was the fear in them. She had said it like someone used to offering herself to survive. Cole stepped closer, knelt down, and looked her in the eyes. He didn't see a slave or a broken girl. He saw someone who had been treated like an object for too long. He stood up and looked at the trader. "How much?" he asked. The trader laughed. "For her? Bah, she's worthless. Just bait for the rich ones to come looking. But they don't want half-bloods like her anymore." Cole threw a small credit stick on the table without arguing. The trader paused, then shrugged. "Take her, fool," as Cole opened the cage. The girl didn't move. She just stared, waiting for pain, waiting for another owner. Instead, Cole took off his jacket, wrapped it gently around her, and said, "Let's get out of here." He helped her up, and she flinched at his touch, but didn't resist. Together, they walked through the crowd, which now stared and laughed. Another human wasting credits on junk. Someone shouted. Cole ignored them. But what he didn't see was a tall figure in the shadows behind them, watching with glowing yellow eyes. The trader noticed Tuan smiled darkly. "Let's see how long that one lasts." They reached Cole's old transport ship at the edge of the docking bay. He placed her on the small seat near the engine room and handed her water. She stared at it like she didn't know what to do with it. Then she whispered, "Aren't you going to use me now?" Cole didn't answer right away. He just leaned back and looked at the stars through the small window. "No," he finally said. "You're safe here." She blinked, confused. "No one's safe," she said softly. "Especially not me." Cole glanced at her. "What's your name?" She hesitated, then said, "Lyra." It was the first time she said it like it belonged to her. He nodded. "Okay, Lyra, I'm Cole, and we're leaving this place." Lyra looked around the ship, looked at him, then hugged the jacket tighter around herself. She didn't trust him yet, but something inside her, something very small and buried, started to hope as the engine started. The ship lifted off the ground, and behind them, the shadowy figure pulled out a communicator and said one word: "Found." Lyra didn't know it yet, but her freedom had just begun. So had the hunt. Asterisk, the ship moved quietly through the stars. Lyra sat silently on the edge of the seat, still wrapped in Cole's jacket. Her eyes scanned everything: the blinking lights, the smooth walls, the quiet hum of the engine. Every sound made her flinch. Every movement made her stiffen. Cole was at the front of the ship, flying with calm hands. But watching her through the corner of his eye, he didn't speak much, and neither did she. It wasn't silence from peace, but the silence of someone used to hiding. After a while, Cole stood up and walked to a small side room. He opened the door and pointed inside. "There's a bed," he said simply. "You can sleep here." Lyra didn't move. She looked at him, confused. "You mean, this is your room?" Cole shook his head. It was the crew's room a long time ago. Now it's just empty. She stared at the bed like it was something dangerous. "Why?" she asked. "Why are you giving this to me?" "Because you look like you haven't slept in years," he said. She stepped forward slowly, like the floor might explode. She touched the mattress with her hand. It was soft, warm, clean. She had never touched anything like it before. "Sleep," Cole said. "We're far from the market now. Oh, no one's going to hurt you here." Then he turned and left the room. Leaving the door half open, Lyra stood there for a long time before she finally sat on the bed. She didn't lie down, not yet. She just sat and stared at the wall, thinking in her old life. Sleep was a risk. Sleep meant someone could hurt you while you rested. Sleep meant weakness. But now, there was a man, a human, who didn't touch her, didn't chain her, didn't even look at her with hunger. She didn't understand it. And that made it scarier. She lay down finally, but didn't close her eyes. Her hands stayed close to her chest, ready to protect herself, even after. Hours passed. Her body refused to relax. But slowly, her eyes began to close, and her breathing slowed. It wasn't peace. Not yet, but it was the closest she had felt to peace in a long time. Meanwhile, Cole sat in the control room, watching the radar. He knew the trader wouldn't let her go so easily. Hybrids like her were rare, often hunted, often sold. She was part Xylari and part Vexha, two races who hated each other. To some, that made her trash. To others, a prize. He checked his ship's shields, the hidden escape routes, and the small blaster under his seat. He didn't know why he'd taken her. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was just right. But now, he was involved. Now, her fight was his fight. In the morning war, what counted as morning in space, Lyra stepped into the front of the ship. Her hair was messy, her feet bare, but her eyes looked slightly more alive. Cole handed her a cup of warm broth. She took it slowly, sniffed it, then looked at him with suspicion. "It's not poisoned," he said gently. "Just drink." She sipped it carefully, then took more. The warmth surprised her, made her eyes water. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "What do you want from me?" Cole shrugged. "Nothing. No one does something for nothing," she said. "You must want something." He looked at her for a long time, then said, "I want you to feel like a person again." That answer made her chest tighten. No one had called her a person in years. Maybe never. She turned her eyes away and whispered, I don't know how. You'll learn," Cole said. "You don't have to give your body to be worth something." Those words hit harder than any slap she'd ever taken. They stayed in her head. Repeated again and again, that night, she returned to the bed not with fear, but with quiet thoughts. She touched the blanket slowly, then whispered to herself, "I don't have to give my body." She said it again, like a prayer, like a spell. "I don't have to give my body outside the ship, deep in the dark of space." Another vessel turned toward them. It had no lights, no ID code, no name, just a silent signal locked onto Cole's ship. Inside it, the trader from the market growled into a communicator. "Prepare to follow," he hissed. "The girl is worth more than the fool thinks." Lyra was slowly learning how to breathe without fear. She started walking around the ship with bare feet, exploring quietly. Cole didn't follow her, didn't watch her like others had. He gave her space, and that made her curious. Each room was small but clean, with tools, crates, and dusty shelves. It was not a grand ship, but it felt safer than any palace she had known. One day, she found a mirror. She stared at her reflection. Not recognizing the girl in it, the bruises were fading. The dirt was gone. She touched her face, whispered her own name, Lyra, for a moment. It didn't sound like a slave's name anymore. Cole noticed the change too. Lyra began asking questions about the ship, about stars, about humans. She still didn't smile much, but she no longer flinched when he spoke. Every little step was a victory. But peace didn't last. Not in a galaxy where money mattered more than mercy. It started with a knock. A loud metal thud on the side hatch of the ship while they were docked at a quiet refueling station. Cole looked at Lyra and said softly, "Stay inside." She nodded. And backed into the shadows, Cole opened the hatch. 3 alien men in black armor stood there, tall and serious. "Captain Cole," one of them said, holding up a silver tablet, "we have reason to believe you are harboring stolen property." Cole raised an eyebrow. Property. The man turned the screen toward him. It showed a picture of Lyra, chained and scared. Taken from the trader's records. Hybrid female, unauthorized transfer. Last seen in your company. She's not property. Cole said coldly, "She was being sold," the man replied. "That makes her legally owned and now missing." "She's not a crate of weapons," Cole growled. "She's a person." Another officer stepped forward. "Hand near his weapon. You will hand her over now." Inside the ship, Lyra was shaking. She could hear everything through the thin walls. She backed into a corner, heart pounding like it used to every time someone came to claim her. It was Cole going to give her back now. Was this where the kindness ended? But then she heard Cole's voice again, louder, stronger. "No," he said firmly. "You're not taking her." There was silence, then tension in the air. One of the officers narrowed his eyes. "You realize you're interfering in official matters." "I'm interfering in slavery," Cole shot back. "She's not registered anywhere. No family, no ID," the man argued. "Then let her choose," Cole said. "Let her speak for herself." They hesitated, surprised by the idea. People like her were never asked what they wanted. Cole turned toward the ship's interior and called out, "Lyra, come here." She didn't want to, but something made her step forward. She stood beside Cole, her arms close to her chest. The officers looked at her like she was a broken machine, not a person. "Do you wish to return to your trader?" one asked. Her lips trembled. She looked up at Cole, then turned to them and said softly, "I want to stay. Are you sure?" The officer pressed. She nodded slowly. "I don't want to be anyone's thing anymore." The lead officer looked annoyed. "Then we'll need to file a freedom request at Central Registry." "We'll do that," Cole said without hesitation. "And until then, she's not allowed to leave this ship." The man added, "Fine," Cole replied. "She hasn't stepped outside anyway." The officers turned and left without another word. But before they walked away fully, the last one looked back and whispered, "You've made enemies, human." The hatch closed and silence filled the ship. Lyra was frozen, her knees weak. Cole turned to her and said gently, "They're gone." She looked up at him, trying to speak, but no words came. Tears filled her eyes, and she collapsed to her knees. Not from sadness, but from relief. Cole knelt beside her, not touching her. "Just being there. You didn't give me back," she whispered. "Never planned to," he said. "You're not anyone's property." That night, she sat beside him at the control panel, watching the stars, sipping warm broth. A quiet peace sat between them, but in a distant place. The original trader received a message. "She's still with the human." The officer's voice came through. The trader's eyes narrowed. "Then it's time we take her back by force." The stars outside the window sparkled like cold fire. Lyra sat at the small table on the ship, staring at a spoon in her hand. She held it like it might break, unsure what to do with it. Cole was heating a simple meal, something soft and warm. He glanced at her and smiled gently. "You eat with it," he said, showing her how Lyra copied him. Awkward but careful. It was such a small thing, eating from a bowl with a spoon, but to her, it felt like learning to walk again. She had never been taught how to eat properly, never been taught how to sit at a table or use clean plates before Cole. Her food had been thrown on the ground, cold or half-rotten now. Each bite felt like something strange, something she wasn't sure she deserved. After a few minutes, she looked at him and asked, "Why do you keep giving me things?" Cole shrugged. "Because you need them. I don't know what to do with them," she whispered. "Then we'll learn," he said. Later that day, Cole showed her a few things around the ship. He taught her how to turn on the lights, how to open the small water tank. Lyra followed quietly, asking short questions in a soft voice. But when he handed her a clean shirt and said, "Wear what you like," she froze. "What I like?" She repeated. "Yes," Cole said. "Pick your clothes your way." She didn't move. She stared at the shirt in her hands like it was something heavy. "I was never allowed to choose," she said. "We wore what they gave us." "Well, no one's giving orders here," Cole said. "You're free." That word "free"'d in her mind. She had heard it before, many times, but never believed in it. Now that someone had given it to her, she didn't know what to do with it. She went back to her room and stood in front of the mirror. She put on the new shirt, then another one, then tried a different one again. She looked at herself, tilted her head, and whispered, "This one feels like me." For the first time, she wasn't wearing something forced. She chose it, and it made her feel not powerful, but real. That night, she walked into the control room where Cole sat with his feet up. He looked at her and smiled. "Nice choice." Lyra sat down across from him and asked, "What do humans do when they're free?" He thought for a moment, then said, "Some explore, some build things, some fall in love, some just try to live, fall in love." She repeated, confused. "It means caring for someone deeply without chains or fear," he explained. She was quiet for a long time, then said softly, "I don't know how to care without fear." "That's okay," Cole said. "We've got time," but time wasn't a luxury they really had. The bounty on Lyra had grown, whispers spreading across black markets and back channels. She was no longer just a hybrid. She was a target. Too rare to ignore, too valuable to let go. One evening, while Lyra was learning how to boil water in the tiny kitchen unit, Cole received a silent alarm from the ship's radar system. He looked at the screen. Something was following them, staying far but close enough to track. He didn't tell her. Right away, he just watched her as she carefully stirred soup. Her brow furrowed in deep focus. She was learning, growing. She was becoming more than what they'd made her that night, as she sat in her room, reading a simple book Cole gave her. He walked in and said, "We may need to move soon, fast." Lyra looked up. "Is it?" "The traitor." "Maybe," Cole said. "But we'll be ready." She nodded, but her hands trembled. "I don't want to go back in a cage," she whispered. "You won't," he said firmly. "Not while I'm breathing." Lyra stood and walked closer. "I want to help," she said. "Not just hide. You don't have to." Cole replied, "I want to," she repeated, louder this time. She followed him to the ship's storage room. He showed her emergency supplies, where weapons were kept, how the escape pods worked. Her hands were still shaky, but her eyes were steady. She was scared, but she was trying. As Cole turned to show her something else, Lyra suddenly asked, "What if they catch us?" Cole looked her in the eye and said, "Then I fight, and you run. But I don't want to run anymore." She said, her voice was quiet but strong, "I want to fight too." The quiet days didn't last. Cole knew it, and deep down, Lyra knew it too. The way she glanced over her shoulder, the way he checked the radar every few hours. They were waiting for something to happen, and finally, it did. It started with a faint signal, just a small blip at the edge of their ship scanner. Not a planet. Not a rock, something moving fast. Too fast. Cole narrowed his eyes, pressed a few buttons, and the screen zoomed in. A ship, black and silent, with no ID signal. They found us, he said under his breath. Lyra was in the small room folding her clothes when he rushed in. We have company, he told her. She stood up quickly, her hands shaking. Is it him? I think so, Cole replied. And he's not alone. The traitor hadn't just followed them. He had brought Hunter's mercenaries, cold and skilled, paid in blood and credits. To him, Lyra was still property, still a prize he could sell. And now, he was ready to take her back no matter the cost. Cole activated the ship's shields, but he knew it wouldn't be enough. The traitor's ship was bigger, stronger. He needed a plan, fast. Get to the back room, Cole told Lyra. There's an emergency escape pod. Stay close to it. No? She said suddenly. I want to help. I'm not risking you, Cole said firmly. But I won't go back, she replied, her voice shaking but steady. I won't hide again. Cole looked at her, really looked. This was not the same girl from the cage. This was someone learning to fight for herself. All right, he said, handing her a small stun pistol. Only if you're sure I am, she whispered. Gripping it tight, the enemy ship docked with a loud bang. The hull of Cole's ship shook, lights flickered. The sound of metal clamps locking in echoed. Through the corridor, Cole stood by the door, blaster in hand. Lyra hid behind a wall nearby, heart pounding in her chest. The airlock hissed, and then it opened. The traitor stepped in, tall and covered in shiny armor. His cruel smile stretched across his face. Behind him, 2 mercenaries followed, weapons ready. Well, well, the traitor said, looking around, still playing hero. Human. Cole didn't respond, just raised his weapon. You're not taking her, he said. The traitor laughed. She's not yours to keep. She's not yours to sell. Cole snapped back. You think saving her makes you noble. The traitor sneered. You're just another fool who fell for sad eyes. From behind the wall, Lyra stepped out. Her hands were trembling, but she raised the stun pistol. I'm not for sale, she said loudly. Not anymore. The traitor turned to her, surprised. So, the little pet learned to speak, he said mockingly. I'm not your pet. Lyra said. She aimed the weapon, but one of the mercenaries fired first. A blast hit the wall inches from her head. Cole fired back, hitting the mercenary in the shoulder. Chaos broke out, blasters screamed. The air filled with smoke and heat. Lyra dropped to the floor, crawled to a better spot, and fired her stun pistol. It hit the second mercenary square in the chest. He collapsed with a groan. The traitor snarled, lunged at Cole, swinging a heavy metal rod. They struggled, fists and weapons clashing. Cole was strong, but the traitor was fueled by rage. Lyra saw it all from the corner of the room. She didn't want to run, not this time. She rushed forward and grabbed a metal pipe from the floor, just as the traitor raised his arm to strike Cole again. Lyra swung the pipe hard into his side. He screamed and turned, shocked that she dared to fight back. Cole took the chance, grabbed the rod. Hand hit him across the jaw. The traitor collapsed, unconscious. Silence fell over the ship. Smoke, still, drifted in the air. The lights flickered again. Cole leaned against the wall. Breathing hard, Lyra stood still, shaking, staring at the pipe in her hand. You okay? Cole asked finally. She nodded. I hit him, she whispered, like she couldn't believe it. I saw. Cole smiled. You saved me. She dropped the pipe, her hands still trembling. I was so scared, she said, but you didn't. Run, he replied. No, she said. I'm tired of running. They dragged the traitor and the mercenaries into the airlock chamber. Cole set the controls to send them back in a small escape shuttle. toward the nearest authority station. Let the law deal with them now. As the hatch closed and the ship returned to quiet, Lyra sat down slowly, her body heavy with exhaustion. I was always told I was weak, she whispered. They were wrong, Cole said, handing her a drink. You're stronger than they ever expected. She looked at him, eyes full of something new, not fear, not pain, but power. I want to learn more. She said, you will, Cole replied. We're just getting started. The stars outside looked peaceful, but inside the ship, tension still lived in every corner. Lyra sat on the floor near the medical kit, gently cleaning the cut on Cole's forehead. His shirt was torn, his hands bruised. But he smiled softly. You hit him hard, he joked. Lyra tried to smile, but her hands still trembled. I didn't think I could do it, she whispered. You didn't think, you acted, Cole replied. That's courage. She didn't feel brave, not yet. She felt like a thin thread holding back a storm. But Cole's words stayed in her heart, warming something cold inside her. Later, Cole sat at the control panel, scanning for any signs of more danger. He didn't want to tell her, but he knew it wasn't over. The traitor may have been arrested, but he had contacts, partners, people who didn't like losing profit. Lyra sat in the co-pilot seat now. Not hiding in the dark anymore, she asked about the stars, about the systems, about where they could go. Cole told her about quiet planets, old colonies, places where no one asked questions, but she interrupted gently. I don't want to just hide. He looked at her, surprised. I want to help others, she said. Girls like me. There are so many still out there. That night, Cole showed her the ship's weapons locker. It was small, nothing fancy, just a few old pistols, a rifle, and an energy blade. Lyra stared at them with wide eyes. She had seen weapons all her life but never been taught to use them, only fear them. Cole picked up a basic energy pistol, turned it off, and placed it in her hands. It felt heavier than she expected. It won't bite, Cole said, smiling. Lyra looked down at it. I'm scared, he nodded. That's good. Scared people are careful. Her fingers touched the trigger, then pulled away quickly. Take your time, he said. We'll start with how to hold it for the next few hours. He taught her step by step. Grip, aim, stance. Breath, she listened carefully. Eyes focused, lips pressed tight. She missed her target many times, but each time she got a little closer when she finally hit the practice dummy center. She blinked in shock. I did it, she whispered. Cole grinned. Told you. But their peace didn't last. 3 days later, while they were resting near a quiet moon station, a signal broke through their private frequency, encrypted, short, and dangerous. Cole's eyes narrowed as he read the message. It came from someone in the black market. A warning, bounty increased, new hunters coming. Armed, he turned to Lyra. We need to leave now. She didn't ask questions, just moved quickly, grabbing the emergency bag and securing the supplies. As the ship lifted off, another ship entered their radar zone, fast and heavy. Cole checked the readings. Military grade, he muttered. Someone's spending a lot to get you back, Lyra stood beside him, still holding the pistol he had trained her with. Her hands were shaking again, but she didn't let go. They'll try to board us again, she asked. Maybe, Cole said. Or they'll try to blow us out of the sky. The enemy ship fired, but Cole's small cruiser dodged the blast. He weaved between moon rocks and asteroid chunks, but the hunter ship stayed close. Suddenly, alarms rang. Something hit their rear engine. The ship shook violently. Sparks flying from the control board. We're hit, Cole shouted. Lyra, go to the emergency pod. She didn't move. Now, he ordered. But she stepped forward instead. I'm not running, she said, voice trembling. Not this time. He looked at her, pain in his eyes. You could die, he said. So could you, she replied. But if we stand together, maybe we live. He stared at her for a moment, then nodded slowly. Okay, he said. Let's fight together. The enemy ship clamped onto their airlock, another forced boarding. Cole handed Lyra the second pistol, smaller and lighter. Use it only if you must, he said. I know, she replied. They took positions, Cole behind the main door. Lyra hidden near the hallway curve. The hatch opened slowly, steam rising, footsteps echoing. 3 armored hunters stepped in. Weapons raised, scanning the space. Cole fired first, hitting one square in the leg. A second returned fire, and Cole ducked for cover. Lyra closed her eyes for a second, took a deep breath, then stepped out. She aimed just like she had practiced, hands shaking but steady enough. She fired, and the stun blast hit the third hunter right in the chest. He dropped instantly. One of the others turned toward her and shouted. Lyra flinched, but didn't drop the gun. She fired again, missed, then fired again. This time, she hit. Cole took care of the last one. The hallway went silent again, filled only with the sound of Lyra's breathing. She lowered the weapon and looked at her hands. They were still shaking, but she hadn't dropped the gun. You did it, Cole said, walking over. I was so scared, she whispered. You were brave, he replied. She looked at him, her eyes wide. Do you think I can really protect people one day? I think you already have, he said. The broken hunters lay unconscious. The ship was damaged. The lights were flickering. But the silence was peaceful. Cole leaned against the wall, breathing slowly, his shoulder bleeding from a grazing shot. Lyra rushed to him, her hands gentle but firm. Let me help, she said. He nodded. You were incredible. She didn't feel like a hero. Her legs were shaking, her fingers trembling as she cleaned the wound. But inside her chest, something strong was growing. Something strong was growing, something she had never felt before. It wasn't pride, it wasn't anger, it was freedom. They repaired the ship over the next few days. It wasn't perfect, but it could fly. They stayed low, off the main systems, hiding their trail. Lyra no longer avoided mirrors. She stood taller. Now, her steps confident, her eyes steady. Cole noticed the change, and so did she. She had once been chained, sold, and used, but now she was no one's property. One morning, Cole brought her to the control room and pointed at the screen. This planet, he said, is a human settlement on the edge of Federation space. They accept alien refugees, no questions asked. Lyra stared at the green world spinning slowly on the screen. Forests, lakes, clean air, safety. I can stay there. She asked. You can do whatever you want, Cole said. No one owns you anymore. She was quiet for a while, then asked, what about you? I'll drop you off. Maybe take some supply jobs nearby, he replied. Lyra looked down at her hands. What if? I want you to stay. Cole blinked, surprised. Do you? He asked. I don't want to go back to being alone, she whispered. Not after everything. He smiled gently. Then I'll stay. When they landed, Lyra stepped onto solid ground like it was her first time walking. The wind touched her face. The sun warmed her skin. She looked around. No walls, no cages. Just open space and freedom at the refugee office. She filled out her own name for the first time. No numbers, no slave tags, just Lyra. They asked if she wanted a new ID. She said yes, but kept her name. She had earned it. Weeks passed. Lyra started working at a small clinic in the village. She wasn't a doctor, but she was good with children. They loved her gentle voice and strange eyes. She told stories from the stars, and they listened with wide smiles. One day, little alien girl tripped and scraped her knee. Lyra cleaned the wound carefully. The girl asked, were you always this strong? Lyra smiled softly and said, no, I was scared. but someone showed me I didn't have to be. Cole watched from the doorway, arms crossed. He had found small work nearby, but mostly, he stayed close, not to protect her, but to walk beside her. One evening, they sat by the lake, watching the sunset. Lyra picked up a small stone and turned it in her hand. "I used to think I was born to be owned," she said quietly. "I thought I was made to suffer. That my blood made me less." Cole didn't speak, he just listened. "But now," she continued, "I know that wasn't true." She looked at him, her eyes no longer afraid. "I wasn't for sale, just didn't know how to say no. You never have to say yes to anyone again." Cole said, "I know," she whispered, "because I belong to no one." She leaned her head on his shoulder, and for the first time, there was no fear between them. No debt, no chain, no threat, just peace. Later that night, Lyra wrote something in her small notebook. She had started keeping one after arriving. It was her own voice, her own words. She wrote, "I was sold, but not broken. I was used, but not ruined. I was scared, but now I am free." She closed the book and looked out at the stars. There were still scars inside her, still nights when she woke up shaking. But now she had something stronger than pain. She had choice, and every time she looked in the mirror, every time a child hugged her, every time the wind touched her face, she remembered the man who saw her as more than a body, the one who gave her a bed instead of a cage, a name instead of a number, a future instead of fear. She was no longer Lyra, the slave, no longer someone to be bought or silenced. She was Lyra, free, strong, alive, and she would never let anyone take that away again.